I'm sorry this video is a little bit flickery. I am still having slight problems, but I think I've solved them, kind of. I know what it is. It's a technical issue that I can resolve, but it's going to require some messing about with software, so bear with me. Today I am going to be reviewing Prima Marketing Watercolors Pastel Dreams, or Pastel Dreams if you're in America, set. I ordered this from the USA. I will put in the video description the links that I used to get it from the UK or the USA, because even if I ordered this on Amazon UK, it ships from Amazon USA. I think I did order this on Amazon UK and it shipped from the US all the same. So I will put links for people in the UK and the USA who want to buy this, and some of those links will work for people elsewhere in the world. I will try and find the cheapest way to get it that I can. I can't remember how much I paid for this, but I will put in those links how much it is at the moment and how much I paid, just to give you an idea. Obviously, kind of disclaimer that I'm making sure I say with every kind of haul video, this is a business, this is my business, this is a business expense. I'm not buying tons of sets of watercolours, even though I'd love to, really. I have 3 of the Prima sets. I have the Tropical, the Decadent Pies, and this one, and I have got the Shimmering Lights one on order at the moment. I don't want the Classics one because nothing in there looked very interesting to me. That was the first one that they released. And this one, Lindsay the Frugal Crafter reviewed a little while ago, which I will link in the iCards right about now. And I remember seeing it and thinking it was terribly wonderful ice cream-like colours. They were just so garishly beautiful. So I thought I'd give it a go. Now, I did open this last night just to have a quick look at it, because when things come into the UK, they very often go via a customs clearance company, so things get opened, and I wanted to just check. And when it arrived, actually all the paints were kind of all over the place, because obviously it had been searched, but I've put them correctly now. So it's in the usual Prima little metal tin. And obviously remember, if you're not paying a huge sum of money for these, even if you hate the paints, you've got the tin palette. And these are expensive. Metal palettes are really not cheap. And these are pretty nice ones. Paint doesn't bead up too much. And I don't know if you can really see, but this bit doesn't hang downwards, so the paint doesn't fall off. One thing Prima have changed since I reviewed the other ones is they used to just give all their colours a number. And now what they've done is given them all a name as well, because I am not a number. So now, rather than just being 37 through 48, this set is brown chocolate, crimson rose, lemonade, citrus, bumblebee, sea dream, paradise, pool party, ice sky, and lilac rain, which I think have quite sweet names, and obviously they must have a lot of fun coming up with those. So here they are, kind of in their orders. One I just want to check if it's correct is, yeah, okay, that one is right. The reason I just pulled that one out and checked it is I realised that was citrus, and that's actually quite a warm orange, and I expected citrus would be a bit more of a lemonade-y kind of colour, but no, that's not right. So that's how they are, and when you get them, as with all the Prima sets, you get this shit. I hate it, this really, really bad quality paper. And what I have to be honest about is that that bit of swatch paper they give you can actually give you a really bad first impression of these paints, so be careful. So obviously the paints lift out, that whole set comes out, and you've got space for mixing underneath, which makes these great portable palettes. And you can fit 7 Winsor & Newton pans along the middle, half pans, sorry. And once these have all been unwrapped, you can usually get another one in the end, so you can actually really expand these palettes quite a bit by adding colours or taking 2 or 3 of the different Prima palettes and setting up the colours appropriate to the location you're painting in, which is really great. So I'm going to unwrap all these. The reason this paper is crap, it's very shiny, it's got coating on it, it's got a very, very satin finish, and when you paint these paints on it, they look very, very opaque, very gouache-like. When you paint them on watercolour paper, they look very different and much better. So my own view of this is that this actually can make them seem worse than they are, because it means your very first impression of them isn't that good. So be wary if you are getting them and you put them on there and you think, oh, these don't look good at all. Wait till you actually painted with them, because it can really be quite different. Now, one thing I recommend with these is that you take a permanent pen of some kind and you write on the half pans the number, because it's really easy to mix them up, especially if you move them around. So I'm just writing those on as I unwrap them. What you will also notice is they've got a kind of gritty, glistening look to them, and that can make you worry they're going to be terribly opaque. What I think that is, and I'm trying to get the information out of Prima marketing at the moment, is that kind of glistening, sparkly, gritty stuff is a sugar-like filler that they use to extend an extender really, rather than, sorry, a filler, not an extender. And it's a sugary compound, if I'm right about what it is, and obviously I don't know if I'm right about what it is at the moment. I'm trying to get the company to tell me. It dissolves in water, so as soon as you put a wet brush to it, that disappears. You don't get any grittiness when you paint with them. You're not going to get sparkly crystals of weirdness in your painting. It's not like they're mica or anything, but the metallic colours they have in the Shimmering Lights and the Decadent Pies sets obviously do have mica or similar in them. Now I think these sets are great for their intended audience, which is people who are using colouring books, people who are using them for mixed media, people who are using them for scrapbooking, people who don't want to mix paint, people who just want to throw on a pink and know that they're going to get a reproducible pink every time without needing to know how to make one. These are fantastic because they're really lazy. You can just use them as they are. They've got a lot of mixes in them already. Very similar to the Jane Davenport ones that are doing the rounds at the moment. And I will say, whilst I haven't reviewed the Jane Davenport ones, they are remarkably similar. I think they're probably manufactured by the same company in Korea. And I think they're probably going to have some overlap between them, but I can't confirm that because A, I haven't actually confirmed that they are made by the same company in Korea. I just believe they are. And secondly, Jane Davenport won't actually tell me whether they're the same ones, which I can't say I blame her, because you don't want to lose trade from people who go, oh, sod it, well, I'll just keep the Prima ones and won't buy hers. That's absolutely fine. I don't blame her for not wanting to tell me that. But I tend to go with the intro. I'm a bit more like an investigative journalist in a way. I believe in people knowing the truth and making their own decisions and making the best decisions. And that doesn't always go with what companies do or don't want to tell me. So sometimes it's harder for me to find out information. But I've been chatting with someone this week who's also an avid reviewer of these kinds of products, and we've been trying to find means and ways that we can find out certain information so that we can get it out there into the community, because it is important that you guys know what you're buying, especially those of you, and I don't mean this in a patronising way, who don't know your pigments that well, who don't know your paints that well because you want them, let's say, for scrapbooking, and you don't need to know an enormous amount about the paints. And are perhaps a bit more liable to buying duplicates because you don't really know whether something by one company is exactly the same as something by another company, or has the same properties, or will give you the same effect, or whatever. I want to make sure that the information's out there to help you guys make informed decisions. Simple as that. So I will kind of go out of my way to find out that information. So I'm getting towards the end of unwrapping now, and I'm sorry it's taking me a while. It's because I am writing on the bottoms of them as I do it. First impression, there was a product in the UK in the 80s, and I can't find any record of this. I just Googled it. It was probably manufactured by a very small company, and it went out of fashion very quickly. It's a product called Looney Jelly. And Looney Jelly was a Jello, to those of you who are in the USA. And Looney Jelly is, or was, a jelly that came in, the blocks where you get like divided up into squares that you dissolve in hot water, and then that makes jelly. It made opaque, brightly coloured jellies, and as soon as I saw this bottom row of colours, I just thought Looney Jelly. That is actually the colour of one of the Looney Jellies. It was an opaque blue, and I begged my mother in the 80s that I wanted to try it, and she begrudgingly bought it for me because I think it was relatively expensive as jelly goes. It's disgusting. It's absolutely revolting, and I got very told off for not actually liking it. So there we are. Now what I'm going to do is I've got a piece of watercolour paper here. Now this is Langton, I think, not Langton Prestige. I think this is straight Langton cold press. No, it's not actually. This is not. This is just a cold press cheap student one. I'm painting on the back of something. I'm not using new paper for this, because this is not my official swatches for this set. I'm just painting this to get a quick look-see for you guys to see what there is, and then I'm going to try painting something, because I think I should try, if I can think of anything immediately that comes to mind that I can paint with these. So I'm going to use my kind of go-to brush, which is my size 8 Daylon round. It's a synthetic round, and I'm just going to wet that and go straight in, and I'm going to paint each one. They wet really easily, just like the other Prima ones. I'm going to paint each one twice, once onto the swatch card, once onto here, and what I will do is I will cut myself a piece of watercolour paper by cutting around this, and then use that to be the proper swatch card for inside this tin, because this one is going to give a really weird impression. So that was brown. Now on to chocolate, and I'll discuss the colours once they've had time to sit on the paper for a while and dry down, because it's very hard to really review a colour until you've seen it dry down. Now on to crimson. Remember, crimsons are usually a cool red, which that most definitely is. Now rose, which is a very, very pale, very, very pale pink. Not really the kind of rose like the quinacridone roses and so on that we're kind of used to. Much more pale, probably opaque. What I didn't do was put any black pen down to check the opacity of these. I'll do an opacity check momentarily. So the next one is lemonade, which is also pink. So not lemonade as in yellow, lemonade as in pink, lemonade pink, and that is very, 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 very pale. But I suppose it resembles pink lemonade. I do find these paints are a little harder to wash out of your brush than many brands, because I think because they wet so easily, I think they wick up a little bit. So this is citrus, which is a really vibrant orange. And really very pretty. Quite fond of that already. I'll put these up to the camera, obviously, anon, so you can see them. This is Bumblebee, which I recognise, and that's one of the Hansa yellows. Obviously can't talk about fugitivity and light fastness and all those kinds of things at this stage, because I haven't got the pigment information, which I have asked the company to try and give me something to work with, because it's the thing that you guys always ask me. I get asked a lot, tell me about these paints, what will they do, can I use them for X, Y or Z? And I wish I could provide it for the Prima paints, but they're not very forthcoming with that information, which I think is a shame, because much like Jane Davenport's range, you know, there are a lot of paints in there that are not that light fast, but think about it, they are not paints for fine artists. They are paints for mixed media, they are paints for do it, scan it and print it, they are paints for art journals. They are not meant to be light fast. So this is Paradise I'm doing now, and the previous one was Sea Dream. And so if we knew what the light fastness was, we'd know what the limitations are, and we'd cut our cloth accordingly. Whereas when you don't know, you take chances. And when you take chances, you get disappointed. There was a little bit of crap on my brush there from the edge of my paint pot, sorry. This is Pool Party, which is a sort of pseudo-cerulean. Icy Sky I like the look of in the pan. What's it like on the paper? Very pale, very pale. I'm noticing a lot of white coming out in the water with these, so I think there is a lot of lithopone, which is an extender used to basically make the paint go further. And the last one is Lilac Rain, and I'm going to put that on. And what you get for a few of these colours seems to be that you get a kind of an intense and a pastel version of the same thing. Let's just think about what pastel means in this context. If you think about pastels, they are a product made of chalks and waxes and clays and all those kinds of things. mixed with pigments, so they dilute down the colour of the pigments. They will make a pigment look paler. So traditionally, when we talk about pastel colours, what we mean are muted colours that are often very soft but still quite vibrant and bright, just muted and softened down, and that is certainly what we're getting here. So if we were to compare, for example, and I will do it with ones on paper, if you compare the crimson, the rose and the lemonade, you have got three of the same getting more and more pale, but I think more and more opaque, and we'll test that in a minute. And you kind of get the same over here with this series. So let's just try out some opacity checking, which I usually do with an alcohol marker, because I think when you do it with Indian ink, as I know some YouTubers do, the great problem with doing that is that you're actually coating the paper, and that can make it very difficult. Whereas with an alcohol marker, it's going to sink into the page, and as soon as it's dried, it's easy to paint over. So my views initially, the brown and the chocolate are really pretty. I really like them. One's a bit more transparent than the other. I like the pink series, but let's look at the opacity. Citrus is cute. Bumblebee is very vibrant. I like the whole blue series, Sea Dream, Paradise, Pool Party and Icy Sky. They're great. And Lilac Rain is a really nice colour. So I want nothing against them in terms of tones. I think they're all pretty, including the browns, which is quite rare. Browns are generally not the prettiest of colours, but these ones are pretty cool. I don't know what I've just pressed, but it wasn't what I wanted to press. May have done something there. Just pressed a random button. It wasn't the zoom in button. It's a bit silly of me. So I'm just going to put these out in the same order that they are on here to look for their opacity. I find a black line a very convenient way to do it, but when you do this, you have to let it dry, because you need to let it soak down and see how opaque it looks after you've done that. What I do find with these is they actually last quite a while, and they wet really easily. The only time I found was to kind of burn through them a little bit is some of the colours you need to use quite a lot because they're not very intense. I found that previously. What I will do while I'm sitting here is a couple of parish notices. Very close to 2,000 subscribers, which is really nice. Audience is growing all the time. A lot of people watch my videos who don't subscribe to me for whatever reason. I think there's a lot of people out there who don't know how YouTube works and they don't subscribe to videos. They go and look at, it's people like me who are a bit Luddite, because we remember the days where you couldn't subscribe to websites, so you had to go and check if they had new content. And I think they do that. So I get a lot of return business that is not relating to YouTube. Now my paint water is almost completely white now, so I think there is a lot of lithopone in this set, which is not a bad thing. These are intended to be pastel colours, so they're going to have to put something white in there. Now it may not even be lithopone, it may be titanium white or zinc white, but I'm just guessing that it's lithopone, because lithopone's cheap at the moment. So almost done, 3 to go. So yeah, numbers building up. 4,000 is my current number I'd like to get to, but as I've said before, just got that on my top. I don't sort of feel that the community owes me anything. I started making videos to give something back rather than anything else, and suddenly it's become really lucrative, and I've got a return audience, and I'm getting asked to review things, and it's been great. It's opened so many doors to me. I love it, but I'm not under the impression that this is forever, or that YouTube owes me anything, but I'd love to get to 4,000. It would be really nice. So I've just thrown out those colours onto here. Let's keep zoomed in. So they're not dry yet, which is making it a bit difficult. So let's start by talking about chocolate, which is the second one, this one here. Chocolate, I think, is fairly transparent. I would say the crimson isn't dry enough yet to know. Actually, most of those, are not dry enough to be able to tell. So I'm going to put that to one side, and I'm going to see if I have got... Yeah, I've got another scrap of paper here. Let's see if we can do a little painting. Nothing fancy. No, I'm not going to use that one. I've got some Winsor & Newton. This is the back of their paper, of that kind of really kind of fake cotton texture. This is on plein air I did in the summer. I don't keep every single sketch I do, so I'll paint on the back. They have a cold press texture on one side and a hot press texture kind of on the reverse. So let's see what we can do with it. I'm just trying to think of something I can do with this set of colours with minimal mixing. And I'm not very good at drawing things like cupcakes, which would lend themselves brilliantly to this set of colours. It is just the perfect set for that kind of thing. I guess I could do... yeah, let's just try doing a beachy sort of sky, a landscape, because I can do those. I mostly paint landscape and trees and all that sort of thing. I don't paint objects really because they're a bit less forgiving. So I'm just going to use a squirrel mop to... Sorry, it's one of the first times I've used this particular mop. So a few stray hairs there. Always wash brushes before use. And that's going to be our sky. And I'm going to paint that sky in first of all. And this is going to be similar to the painting that's actually underneath this. I use Pool Party, I think, for the sky. And all I'm doing is very much like my episode 3 of the Spin Doctor's Surgery. I'm just really putting down some blue and letting it flow. And that will form clouds for me once it dries. And these paints don't flow amazingly because they've got so much opacity. Opaque paints, when they're opaque with fillers and whites and so on, tend not to give you amazing flow. I'm going to use a mixture of the crimson and just realised how high up that is. I'm going to mix the crimson and the rose because the rose is very opaque but the crimson's too dark, just to make a pink to do a bit of sunset. It's way too dark, but we'll see what happens. It's a sketch, it's not a piece of artwork. And now I want to do some sea, so I'm going to do Sea Dream and Paradise. That annoying rattle, by the way, you can deal with. You can quite easily fix these paints down by just squeezing the clippy things. It will hold them better. So that's Paradise mostly, and I'm going to throw in... So the sky was Pool Party, by the way. I'm going to put in some Sea Dream. Very granulating, which again is a sign of a lot of stuff added. Very heavy, very dense paints that don't flow amazingly. That's a sign of excessive extender, which for the market these are aimed at is absolutely expected. I'm going to leave that and let it dry down a little bit. I want to play with this lemonade a moment and see what mixes we can get. Beautiful, warm, fantastic warm yellow. Now, a warm yellow and a cool red usually is an ugly result, but let's see. It's not so bad. Red overpowered the yellow quite a lot, but it's not a bad orange actually. So you can get a respectable orange. I know you can't see this very well. I'm going to lift it up to show it to you when I get to the end. See what we can do with... So if we mix a warm yellow with a blue, we are going to get horrible, horrible greens. But let's have a look. These are all fairly cool blues, so I'll try Pool Party first. And you get quite a muted green there. In fact, let's just throw the two together. You get a kind of moss green if you do that. And we'll do the same again, but with try Sea Dream this time. You get more of an olive if you do that. And we'll try the more, or less warm yellow. I wouldn't say it's a cool yellow. So it's not quite so warm, which is Bumblebee. Again with Pool Party first. Now that just basically gives us Paradise. Or a little bit more green than Paradise, but I think you could get Paradise by mixing those. So some of these are probably mixes of other colours in the set, which is, certainly we saw that with the Jane Davenport ones. And if you haven't seen my review of the Jane Davenport ones, I have linked it in the iCards earlier in this video when I first mentioned her series, I suppose. And I'll just try the same again, which was Sea Dreams. Quite a nice minty sort of green there. I'll see what we can do with getting an orange out of this with crimson this time. That's a pretty nice vibrant yet slightly mudded or muted, because obviously we're using a cool red. If we mix a yellow and a purple, you should in theory get, my paint water is totally opaque now, you should get a brown. So by mixing Lilac Rain, are we getting a brown? Yeah, kind of. It's a version of a brown, and I want to see, running out of paper here, so I'll move to a scrap watercolour postcard. I'm just thinking about what other mixes I want to do. I haven't tried to do purples yet, so let's do some splotches of crimson first of all. This is a cold press watercolour postcard from Dana and Rowney. And I'm using first of all Pool Party. And that gives quite a nice grey lavender. That's a really sort of, my immediate thought when I see that colour is in the Victorian era where women went into full mourning when their husbands or sons died, and then a year later or 6 months later they would go into half mourning, and one of the acceptable colours for them to wear was a lavender. That lavender, that kind of muted lavender, is exactly what they wore. This is Sea Dream, which will probably be a very ugly mix. Okay, I guess that shows how much more filler or extender there is in, or white there is in Sea Dream, because it's a very opaque mix and very red. Yeah, this is hard to get out of the brush because there's so much white. You can actually see just white pouring out the brush once the colour is gone. I know it will probably be unpleasant, but I'll do it with Icy Sky, which is a very pale blue with a lot of white, I think, in it. We'll just try that, and then I'll show you all the mixes in one go. That is just not strong enough to overpower the crimson. So a bit harder to get a bright, vibrant purple with this set because you haven't got a suitable blue really, but you can get a nice lilac, nice lavender there. I think that's pretty cool. And then these sort of more winey colours are nice. When I did some of the other mixes, you can get pretty respectable greens, 3 nice greens here, and this kind of olive. And then you can get a sort of darker and a brighter orange, a nice brown here. And then that kind of image I did, the sky's not too bad. I think the clouds have kind of come out okay. The crimson doesn't spread very well, so it didn't really make the kind of sky that I was hoping for. I was copying that image from the Spin Doctor's surgery from a couple of weeks back. that just didn't spread as much, and it's also not as cool, but the sky has actually come out all right. You know, the cloud formation in there for a very quick 30-second throw it on the page isn't too bad. What did we get in terms of neutrals? I've just dropped the swatch card. That was very clever. And I think I just painted my jumper. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're alright. I don't need to rush off and throw it in the washing machine. Let's try some neutrals just a moment and see how we get on with those. So classically we would do a red and a green. And obviously I don't have a green, so I'm using a greeny blue. Or we would do an orange and a blue, and for which I will use that warm yellow. And Pool Party. No, they don't want to go that far because the orange isn't orange enough. The orange is really too yellow. So let's try Pool Party with Chocolate, which is the warmer of the two browns. Now we'll do obviously another video when I've had more chance to play with these and do a painting with them, but for now I just wanted to give you my first impressions, and a key part of that for me is seeing how they mix. That's actually a pretty nice neutral. That's actually alright, I like that. Sorry, I know you can't see everything because I'm getting used to my new camera setup and everything else, so bear with me. We could do yellow and purple, which I tried already and it wasn't overly successful, but I'll try doing yellow and Ice Sky, which is kind of at the purple end of the scale, but it's just too insipid. That's the problem, is that yellow's got a huge pigment load. And so one thing I do find about paints like these and like Jane Davenport's ones is that the pigment load between colours isn't very even, and I know you get the same with professional paints as well, but that for me makes it kind of harder because some you get loads of colour and others you get less. And I think for these, I hate to use the word amateur sets, but for sets of watercolours for non-watercolourists, I think you do need to balance them a little bit more and make people's lives perhaps a little bit easier. So let's go back to the opacity that we checked. Right, let's re-zoom in. Okay, so we get my colours in front of me so I know what I'm talking about. Right, that one is brown. I think that has, oops, sorry. That one is brown and it really does not have any opacity over the black line. It's a nice colour. Where it's soaked in, it's left some interesting texture. It's not granulation, but it's interesting. This is Chocolate, which is a much warmer brown, much more of a sort of, not burnt sienna, but similar kind of idea. No opacity really over the line there. No opacity with Crimson either, but a nice bit of texture there where it's spread into the paper. We have Rose, we have opacity. So Rose is an opaque colour. I think you can see that if you look at the black there and there, you can see it sitting on the black. It's very opaque and it's a nice colour. It's a little bit lacking in texture, but it's nice. This one is very opaque. You fold the paper so we can see it. There we go. So you can see over the black here. This is opaque. This is Lemonade. So Lemonade's a very opaque colour, which is a shame because if this colour, this peachy colour, was transparent, it would be a really nice colour. Next we have the beautifully vibrant Citrus, which again has some opacity, but I would call that semi-transparent. It's not quite opaque. It sort of sits on the black, but not quite. Bumblebee is more opaque, but again I'd call that semi-transparent almost, because if you compare it to Sea Dream, which is most definitely opaque here, it's not anywhere near. But Sea Dream is opaque, Paradise is opaque, Pool Party is not. Ice Sky is, and hard to tell with this one. Let's see what the camera picks up. Yeah, I would say semi-transparent really for Lilac Rain. So my view on these is you've got some transparent, some not. I mean, the bottom line is what they've really given you is a set of colours here. Oopsie. Lost focus totally. There we go. What you've really got here as a set of colours is you've got the actual true pastel colours, if you like. The opaque ones are Rose, Lemonade, and the series of Sea Dream, Paradise and Ice Sky. And then you've got a bit of opacity with Bumblebee and Lilac Rain, and then Pool Party, Crimson, Chocolate and Brown, and much more transparent. So what they've really given you here are these sets of pastel colours, and then to kind of bulk out set and give you some useful colours for mixing, you've got Bumblebee, Crimson and Pool Party as a fairly sort of standard red, blue, yellow combination. So let's have a try at what we can achieve with those as red, blues and yellows. So I'm just going to get another, so I use these Aquafine postcards if you've not seen them before. They're just really useful for swatching really, because they're not a bad cold press and they stay flat because they're so thick, so you don't need to tape them down or stretch them. Great for really quick little checking, testing. Okay, let's just try and see how we get on with trying to do a colour circle using Bumblebee. This is going to be a really bad colour wheel, but I'm going to try it anyway. And Crimson. And Pool Party. I love the vibrancy of Bumblebee, but I don't think it's very light fast. So let's mix those two together. We get a fairly insipid green, but we do get not an unpleasant green. If we mix those two together, we get actually a nice lavender. We've already seen that lavender. And again, not an unpleasant orange. So if you want to use those three as mixing basics for mixing the kind of colours you don't get in the set, that's totally fine. You can get a much nicer lavender. Lilac Rain is very bright, very vibrant, but if you want a lavender, you can mix one so easily with this set. That's really very nice and easy to do. So I'm just cleaning off the crap on my brush and see what I get. If you want a nice green, because there isn't a nice green in the set, Pool Party and Bumblebee will give you a nice green. I mean, it is similar to Paradise, I will say that, but it is a nicer, more greener colour. And then if you want a decent orange, you can get an orange with the red and the yellow together. And we'll just try, just to see, if we mix all three, what kind of neutral we get, because we should get a good chromatic neutral from doing that. Difficulty is going to be, I'm going to have to add more and more and more of the blue, because I think these two are really vibrant on their own. So first of all, we mix up an orange. And then we feed in some blue, and I'm mixing these fairly thick off the palette so that I'm not adding too much water. So at this point we've got mud, because I've said this before, mud is like weeds. If you think dandelions are pretty flowers and you deliberately plant them in your garden, they're not weeds, they're plants. If they grow where they're not wanted, they become weeds. So at the moment that's very green, which means we need to add more red. May have overdone the red, but let's see. No, that's not a bad brown, but it's a very brown neutral. It's not a black neutral or a grey neutral. It's very, got a little bit too much yellow perhaps in there, so I'm adding just a dot of blue. Let's cool it down drop by drop with little bits of blue. Yeah, there we go. You can get a grey. There is a fairly nice, I mean it's a little bit warm still. I could cool it down if I wanted to spend ages getting it just right, but that is not bad grey. It's not an unpleasant grey. See, grey here and a warm grey at the bottom where it didn't mix so well. So you can get a grey that would be fine. It's got granulation to it. It's opaque, but it's pretty. I think there's nothing wrong with that. As greys go, I think that's actually kind of nice, and you can see there's granulation in those colours, or sedimentation. Really very pretty. So you can make some nice mixes. You're not limited to just what's kind of supplied in the set, so you don't have to just work from them as Prima intended the colours to be. You can mix with them, you can do stuff with them, and I will in the future do a focus back in. I didn't I will do a more full review. Well, what I will do is I will go away and do a painting with these, and then we'll do a painting as a tutorial video using not necessarily this set, but I will do it with Prima paints. I will probably use 2 or 3 sets together to get the colours that I want. So having just painted out those little bits, what you will see is that colours I used a fair bit of, like Pool Party, have you can see it's kind of gone down sort of well in the middle, but don't be too surprised. I find with these that the initial, like, top ½ centimetre or whatever, or not even that, the first 2 millimetres go down really quickly, then after that they go down slowly. What I will say again is that kind of sparkliness that you see, that gritty texture on the surface, like here, gritty surface, it goes and becomes smooth once you've used it a little bit. So don't be put off by that. Don't assume that's going to mean they've got a gritty, weird metallic texture when you use them. The Prima paints don't at all. What will I say about these? Value for money, really variable. Depends where you buy them and how much you end up paying for them, because the price is very, very variable. I will say that. So shop around, and I'll put links, and I'll obviously try and get you whatever prices I paid, or near as damn it, or what have you. I'm just going to take a damp brush now and do a little scrubbage. That's French, honest. And see how much we can lift. There's a lot of yellow in that first brown that you get. Really, the yellow lifts a bit more than the other colours in there. The chocolate doesn't want to lift quite so easily. And remember, I'm using a reasonably stiff brush here. It's a Daylon is a synthetic that's meant to be kind of better than sable. It's got the properties of sable, but it's a bit stiffer, so bear that in mind. Again, you're getting the same sort of effect with the lemonade and so on, that the white is lifting a little bit more easily than the pink. Now down to lemonade. Oh, lemonade really wants to lift. So what I'm doing is I'm just going over them, and then I'm dabbing them with a dried out baby wipe, which I find as useful as tissues, and they don't cost anything. Mrs. Vyrick, the Frugal Crafter, was mentioning that she steals tissues from garages, and I think that's a great idea. I think we should all steal anything like it. Was only like taking toiletries from hotels, or being really naughty in hotels. Go straight in your room, put all the biscuits in your suitcase, and go back to reception and say that they didn't restock the tea and coffee or whatever, and then they'll restock them, and you get twice as many. And I'm also the sort of person who, when I'm in a hotel, and I've stayed in some very nice hotels in the world, I steal from breakfast to make lunch so I don't have to buy another meal. And I have a friend who stays in 6-star hotels. I've never done that. And she still makes her lunch at breakfast and pockets it and walks out the door, which I think is so funny that it doesn't matter how far up the spectrum you go, we are all still naughty at heart. So yeah, steal... if it's free, take loads of it. That's the important thing in life. Sorry, I'm going to get complaints. Oh, and someone's going to get upset by that. Someone always does. Then they'll moan my desk's untidy. My water's dirty. Can I just show you? I actually started out with completely clean water. This is a 1 litre mason jar. This was completely clean, clear water when I started this review 45 minutes ago. It is now totally opaque and brown. So that gives you an idea of how much crap there is. I'm going to let that settle overnight and just see how much chalk is at the bottom, just out of interest. What I have forgotten to say, and I was going to say earlier in this video, is I've been an ungrateful shit. Not intentionally, because I was a bit stupid. I filmed some videos over Christmas, some card videos. And when I filmed them, I showed some gifts I'd been sent by really, really nice YouTubers and my viewers. And I forgot to then upload those videos because I decided that it was too near to Christmas. No one was going to watch them because everyone had sent their cards out already. I'll save them and put them up next year. That then meant I didn't acknowledge some things I got sent for Christmas, so I'm going to do it now. First of all, Kathleen in the USA sent me this really nice card. Tim Holtz stamp, I think drawn by Christina Werner there, and this is really pretty, and I'd love to know which gold paint she used on the present here. Zoom out a little bit. That looks like Winsor & Newton gold drawing ink to me, but Kathleen, if you're there, let me know. And I won't show the inside of the card because I think it's always very private, but I really like it, and it's something that's Copic colouring there that's really pretty, and it's just a really nice little homemade card. And she sent me some presents. She sent me the Daniel Smith Essentials set, which I've got a review coming up for. I wanted to wait till I'd really used them before I did it, and it was this set where you get Hansa Yellow Light, Pyrrole Scarlet, New Gamboge, Phthalo Blue, Green Shade, Quinacridone Rose and French Ultramarine, 6 5mm tubes that she sent me, and I put those out into one of my studio palettes. I let them dry down. I played with them. I don't know if I've got it within reach, and I can, oh yeah, I can show you that actually. I did just to kind of throw all the colours on a page, sort of sunset style-y, for fun, just to see. Look at the granulation on that blue, it's amazing. That's on Archer's Arche cold press, and can't fit the whole thing under there, but there's the sort of yellows and oranges. And I thought the colours were gorgeous, and it re-wets so easily, and they're really beautiful colours. But I want to do more with them before I review them. But I just wanted to show what she sent them in, because it was very, very kind of her, and she'd made this cute little box to send them in, which I thought was a really, really sweet gesture. And I did record a video thanking Kathleen before Christmas, but then I selfishly didn't upload it because I decided to leave the video till next year. I'm really, really sorry for that. That's Kathleen, who is in Bourne, Massachusetts, and I've actually been there, or been through it, when I was on my way to Woods Hole about 10 years ago, when I was at a conference in Lewiston in Maine at Bates College, and on the way back I went to Boston. So what I'd done is I'd had a week in Manhattan, gone up to Boston where we got the coach from a hotel in Boston, up to Lewiston, Maine, and then we had the conference, and then I came back to Boston and I went to Woods Hole for a night, back to Boston, back to Manhattan, had another week there, came back to the UK. And I remember Bourne, Massachusetts. I remember going through it. I think I did Provincetown in the same trip as well. So yeah, managed to get a lot of places done in one trip. What I also got in the same set was a set of Diane Reevely stamps, which was also just really kind and very unexpected, and she'd written on it that she got it as a duplicate, so hoping I could get some use out of it. I've actually moved them because I'm refiling my stamps at the moment, but it was a set I really wanted, so thank you, Kathleen, that was really kind of you. Thank you everyone else who sent me offers of stuff or has sent me stuff, and companies who've offered to send me stuff, companies who want to send me stuff in the coming months for review. I'm always keen to do it. Always a nice thing. So thank you very much, and good.